It was a crime scene so horrific that it didn't just break the hearts of the police officers who found it, it broke their minds. 3 8-year-old boys found submerged in a muddy drainage ditch in Robin Hood Hills. They were stripped naked and hogtied with their own shoelaces in a way that looked ritualistic. The injuries were unspeakable. Now, in a normal investigation, detectives look for fingerprints. They look for blood trails. They look for a local predator with a history of violence. But the police in West Memphis, Arkansas, didn't do that. Instead, they looked for a witch. If you've seen Stranger Things, you know the story of Eddie Munson, the metalhead outcast accused of a ritualistic killing just because he didn't fit in. But that wasn't just a plotline for a TV show. It was a reality for 3 teenagers who were sent to prison for life. Not because of what they did, but because of who they were. To understand how this happened, you have to go back to May 5th, 1993. West Memphis is a deep red town in the Bible Belt. It's the kind of place where everyone is in the pews on Sunday morning and everyone knows their neighbor's business. Stevie Branch, Michael Moore, and Christopher Byers were best friends. They were typical second graders, Cub Scouts, innocent kids just asking to go for a bike ride while the sun was still out. We've all been there, right? Begging our parents for just one more hour outside before dinner. Their parents said yes, but told them to be home before dark. The sun went down. The streetlights flickered on. But the boys didn't come home. Can you imagine the panic setting in? That cold feeling in the pit of your stomach when you realize something is wrong? By 8 p.m., the parents were calling the police. Neighbors formed human chains, walking through the dark woods, screaming the boys' names into the silence. The next morning, the discovery changed everything. The boys were found in the water, tied ankle to wrist. To the police, this didn't look like a simple murder. It looked like a sacrifice. And you have to remember the time period. In 1993, America was in the grip of the Satanic Panic. Daytime talk shows were telling parents that Dungeons & Dragons was real magic and that heavy metal music contained mind control messages. So the police didn't look for a killer. They looked for a cult. And they didn't have to look far to find someone who fit the description. Damien Echols was 18 years old. He was smart, articulate, and in a town of pickup trucks and church choirs, he was a total freak. He wore a long black trench coat even in the summer. He dyed his hair black. He studied Wicca. To the local authorities, Damien was the definition of evil. There was zero physical evidence connecting him to the crime. No blood, no hair, no fibers. But the rumors were enough. People whispered that he drank blood or held orgies in the woods. The police focused on Damien and his best friend, Jason Baldwin. Jason was quiet, a good student, and his only crime was being friends with the weird kid. But the police needed more than just rumors to make an arrest. They needed a story. That's when they found Jessie Misskelley Jr. Jessie was 17, but he had an IQ of 72. He was borderline intellectually disabled, known for being easily confused and desperate to please authority figures. He was the perfect target. Police brought him in for questioning and grilled him for 12 hours. No lawyer, no parents, just terrified confusion. Put yourself in his shoes for a second. You're a vulnerable kid, and armed men are screaming at you, telling you they know you did it, telling you that if you just help them out, you can go home. What would you say to make it stop? Jesse broke. He gave a confession, but it was a complete mess. He got the time of the murders wrong. He said they used rope when they actually used shoelaces. Every time he got a fact wrong, the police corrected him, and he would change his story to match what they said. It was a textbook coerced confession. But to the town of West Memphis, it was case closed. The trial in 1994 was an absolute circus. Since the prosecution didn't have any forensic evidence, they relied on character assassination. They literally held up Damien's black t-shirts as proof of his guilt. They read lyrics from the bands he listened to. Think about that. Can you imagine being on trial for your life, and the evidence against you is your Spotify playlist and the books on your nightstand? The jury was terrified. They looked at Damien Echols and saw a monster. They convicted all 3. Jesse and Jason got life in prison. Damien was sentenced to death by lethal injection. For 18 years, Damien sat on death row in a concrete cell, watching his 20s fade away. But outside those walls, the world was starting to pay attention. HBO released a documentary called Paradise Lost, and viewers were horrified by the lack of evidence. A massive movement began. Musicians, actors, and lawyers raised money for a new defense team. They hired the best forensic experts in the world to test DNA evidence that wasn't available in 1993. In 2007, the results came back, and they were explosive. There was no DNA from the boys at the crime scene. None. But they did find a hair trapped in one of the knots used to tie up the victims. It was the primary piece of evidence, and it didn't belong to Damien, Jason, or Jesse. It matched Terry Hobbs. Terry Hobbs was the stepfather of one of the victims, Stevie Branch. Neighbors had reported seeing him being violent with the boy. Witnesses placed him near the scene. but the police had never seriously investigated him because they were too busy chasing Satanists. With this new evidence, the state of Arkansas was in a bind. They knew the conviction was falling apart, but they didn't want to admit they ruined 3 lives for nothing. They didn't want to pay millions in compensation. So they offered a deal. It's called an Alford plea, and it is one of the most bizarre legal maneuvers in existence. Essentially, the 3 men had to plead guilty to get out. They had to stand in front of a judge and say, "I did it," while simultaneously being allowed to maintain their innocence on the record. Jason Baldwin didn't want to take the deal. He wanted a new trial to clear his name completely. But Damien was dying on death row. His health was failing. If they waited for a new trial, he might not make it. So to save his friend's life, Jason agreed. On August 19, 2011, after 18 years and 78 days behind bars, they walked free. But here is the tragedy that still hangs over this case. The West Memphis Three are free, but they are not exonerated. In the eyes of the law, they are still convicted child murderers. And what about the real killer? The DNA points to Terry Hobbs. There was another hair found on a tree stump that matched a friend of his. Witness reports of a muddy, bloody man walking into a nearby restaurant restroom that night were ignored. The evidence was lost. The investigation was so focused on the fantasy of a Hellfire club that they let the reality slip through their fingers. Damien Echols is out now. He's an author, an artist, and he's trying to live a peaceful life. But 3 innocent 8-year-olds are still gone. 3 innocent teenagers lost their youth to a prison cell. And the person who actually tied those knots, he got away with it. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? When fear replaces logic, who pays the price? And in a system designed to find the truth, why is it so hard to admit when we've been wrong? I want to know what you think. Was the Alford plea a victory, or was it just a way for the state to hide their corruption? And do you think the case should be reopened to investigate the stepfather? Let me know down below. Stay safe, and remember to question everything.